I'm meteorologist Rod Hill, and after about a month of spending countless hours researching the believed weather patterns we'll be looking at this coming winter season, looking back at the last couple of years and trying to make correlations where I could, this is what I believe will be happening this upcoming winter season. And first, let's take a look back at what I said a year ago in October would happen for last winter. We projected near normal temperatures for the months of November through March. That average came in at 0.2 off of the exact norm. So that was a forecast check. Precipitation near normal or below. We actually came in at roughly 70% of normal last year. It was, if anything, a drier season than I thought. But the only thing that would have made that a bad forecast would have been a wet winter, which of course we did not have. And on January 5th last year, do you remember this? We did in fact have, for a 2 to 3 hour period of time, an all-out 60-mile-per-hour windstorm event that hit Portland. And we talked about there being a heightened chance, 40% at the time, of seeing that. So those were all good marks. And of course, Valley snow is always the headline. And my big headline last year was no big 8-inch snowstorms. In fact, I said for Portland on average, we would see less than 6 inches. Go back to last February. That was the only time we really saw any snow. But it was, for downtown Portland, a series of dustings to an inch. In fact, less than 3 inches for the entire season. We did have a little bit more than that in East County, but overall that was a good storm, projecting no big widespread 8-inch snowstorms. Mount Hood Snowpack, I'm proud of this one. A year ago we said the Mount Hood Snowpack would end the season, the end of April, at 66% of average. It came in at 69%. So we were only 3% off. Now, let's get you moving forward into this coming year. And I want to give you a quick refresher. You know, sometimes you hear, hey, it's going to be an El Nino winter. And the stereotype, which is always a bad idea, but the stereotype for El Nino is we have a tendency to think warm and kind of quiet, maybe a bad year on the mountain. And if you look at the typical El Nino flow, the main jet stream tract slams into California in the southern U.S. That's where it can be really wet. We get kind of bumped or can with this warm ridging over the northwest. That's a typical El Nino year. What about a La Nina year? Then people typically think, boy, it's going to be stormy. Maybe Mount Hood's going to get slammed with a huge snowpack. And the reason that stereotype exists is this. The Pacific jet stream in a typical La Nina year feeds right smack dab into the northwest, so we can be in the bullseye of action. This year, the pattern is what they call INSO neutral, which means we're not La Nina, we're not El Nino. And what does this mean? Not the strongest of jet streams, but there is a fairly active tract that feeds into the Pacific Northwest. The coldest of cold air typically stays away from us, dropping down more over the Great Lakes. And you put all that together, El Nino, you start off thinking, in terms of stereotype, that it's going to be a somewhat normal year. Well, normal for us in the winter would be good rain, good mountain snows up in the Cascades. The National Weather Service, their outlook for the months of November through January, the first part of winter, is the following. They believe Northern California is going to be dry. See the EC? That covers our area. That means equal chance. That means there's just not much confidence to say it's going to be wet or dry. Typically, as a forecaster, you start off thinking, well, we're not going to be too far one way or the other from a normal year. And then what about temperatures? The Weather Service blowing up the United States map, with the exception of the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest, blowing it up with above normal temperatures. Something I do not believe is going to happen, and I'll get into that. So, neutral winters. You go back to 1950. That's when the record log began to keep track of how many El Nino, La Nina neutral years. We've had 16 of them here in the Northwest since 1950 that were neutral years. Those 16 years average out to be below normal in rainfall. The temperatures average out to be near normal. But what's interesting, and notice I have the word positive tilt up here. We're looking at a neutral year, but the temperature's not warm enough to be an El Nino, but slightly above normal. It's what I call a positive tilt. In those years, there's actually more confidence for me to project the precipitation patterns than the temperature pattern. And what I find is that it's going to be highly unlikely for us to have a warm winter, so I think either more close to normal or cooler than normal. Valley snow likely, bada boom, bada bang. Here's one of those bullseye points. 6 to 10 inches for a good solid snow season here in the valley, I think will happen. So my winter outlook, looking at everything I've looked at, and by the way, I did go back and check out, what happens when you have a cold, wet September? What happens if you have a neutral year following a weak El Nino season, which is what we had last winter? Again, I try to correlate as many things as I can find. And I come up with a temperature average that's pretty much near normal, within a half a degree. However, I keep seeing little reasons that pop up to think we could be in for a cold January. And as I mentioned, I think we have a chance to be surprisingly cold. I don't think we have a chance to be surprisingly warm. So either close to normal or cooler, and I am looking at January. Precipitation drier than normal for the months of November through March, 79% average of that. And then valley snow, the 8 to 10 inch mark. And I think the key here is we could have a little bit of snow in November, but I think all total between November through January 1st, not much, maybe up to 3 inches. If we're going to get snow, it's going to be in January and February, and I think there is a decent chance of one 8-inch event. And then skiers and boarders, real quick, my last graphic. This is great news. A 98% normal year on Mount Hood, something we have not seen. You have to go back about 3 or 4 seasons to find a year this great. What does that mean? Well, that would mean Timberline, in terms of total snow that falls throughout the season, will be over 600 inches. Meadows will be over 500 inches. Ski Bowl, there's reason to believe that maybe a slow start, but once Ski Bowl gets to January, on average a 60-inch or greater base January, February, March. This is great news for skiers and boarders. Good snow base of 5,000 feet starts to build in December, so that should set us up nicely for the holiday season as well. I want to tell you, if you go to kgw.com, we have the entire written version of this. It takes a closer look at the exact years that I examined and more on the research that I put into this. That's my winter outlook for now. We'll look for that 8 to 10 inch snow event potentially in January or February here in the Rose City. Happy winter.